The Consumer Affairs Commission, CAC, is an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce responsible for consumer protection, collection and analysis of data retrade, and complaints investigation and resolutions under the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act. The CAC's education program informs consumers about their rights and responsibilities and the steps to take to obtain redress. Hence our tagline: protecting your rights, securing our future. Protecting the consumer in a digital age requires access to information on demand. In response, the CAC's live online product is available on the third Wednesday of each month and is aimed at interacting with consumers via Zoom, Facebook, and Twitter. The CAC education program also informs businesses about the Consumer Protection Act and their responsibilities in all the traditional media, online, and via the CAC mobile app. Our complaints resolution service seeks to secure redress on behalf of aggrieved consumers. Where the process of negotiation has been exhausted, the consumer has a right to file a claim before the Consumer Protection Tribunal. Market surveillance and survey results published both digitally and in print include grocery outlets, petrol stations, hardware stores, book and computer stores, pharmacies, banks, approved accredited private labs and medical facilities for COVID-19 testing. As a member of Consumer International, a global movement of over 200 members, the CAC joins over 100 countries on March 15 each year to mark World Consumer Rights Day, when we highlight the impact of local and global issues on the consumer, as well as promote the rights of consumers. If you feel your rights have been breached, you may file a complaint in any of the following ways. Visit www.cac.gov and other consumer news.
Lack of identification, formal income, and geographical distance. We know that with all good gifts, all good things, there's always the flip side. There's always a disadvantage. So the rapid spread of digital financial services also increases the risk of fraud and abuse. There are those there with nefarious intentions. And so they will try their best to take the list that you have. So consumer protection and effective product design are vital as previously unbanked adults join the formal financial system for the first time. Fair digital finance products and services that are inclusive, inform, educate, and sensitize consumers on the way forward. We want knowledgeable consumers. We want empowered consumers. We want consumers who will make informed decisions based on information that has been given to them. So today, this week, and throughout the financial year, we will seek to collaborate with you on this panel, yes, and other players in an effort to inform consumers about the development of the digital finance ecosystems in Jamaica. Thank you all very much for accepting our invitation, and I wish for the CAC's leadership and its team, as well as all of Jamaica, a happy World Consumer Rights Day. Thank you very much for listening, and do have a very productive day. Thank you. Donovan White, Chairman, CAC, and Fair Trading Commission.
Thank you, Mrs. Allen, for delivering the address for the chairman. I believe it set a very good foundation for discussion today. And just to sum up what you said, we should embrace the change, but while we embrace the change, we need all hands on deck to ensure that it is fair, inclusive, and safe. We need all our partners, all our stakeholders. We mentioned the banks and the fees. That has been in the news for some time now. And the CAC is prepared and ready to marshal this change and marshal this safe access to digital finance. Our next speaker is someone who needs no introduction. And I believe you're all excited, as I am, to hear from the Honorable Dr. Norma Dunn, State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Investment, and Commerce. Welcome, Minister, and we look forward to hearing your address and hearing your charge for this morning's proceedings.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator Dana. Good morning, everyone. I am actually out in Sablamar, just arrived in Sablamar for a meeting here. So the bandwidth is not very good, so if you don't mind, may have to turn off my video in order to get the message out clearly. So you just bear with me, please. Thank you very much. So, good morning again, Moderator, and board members of CAC and FPC. Presenters, Professor Paul Goldsmith, Lecturer, Decision, Science and Information Systems, Ms. Shanique McIntosh, Manager, Customer Service Experience, JPS Co. Mr. Andrew Cannon, Corporate Communications Manager, NWC, Ms. Colin Good, Specialist Consumer Affairs Policy, OUR, Mr. Amit Sagan, Director of International Social Security, Ministry of Labor, Ms. Dorothy Allen, of course, and other distinguished members, our Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Cynthia Bennett Templar, and CTV Party. Ladies and gentlemen, guests online, good morning. So let me take the opportunity to thank Consumer Affairs Commission for this opportunity to address consumers in Jamaica and the diaspora and students of consumer affairs on World Consumer Rights Day. We are a global community of over 120 countries. It's acknowledging the day under the theme Fair Digital Finance. This carefully selected theme promotes the expansion of digital products and services in Jamaica and presents us with a platform to speak to all Jamaicans at home and in the diaspora about Jamaica's digital commercial investment ecosystem and the opportunities to create, build, and grow. A fair digital financial system offers many opportunities for all, and expanding our suite of digital financial services empowers us to cope with crises and to boost economic activity. The link between financial inclusion strategy of the government of Jamaica and the growth of small businesses during the pandemic continues to be expressed through the indigenous and creative ideas of our SMEs, which mirrors markets such as those of Asia-Pacific countries. The traditional business model has been revolutionized by the financial technology of fintech that was once the exclusive domain of the banking industry, and the unbanked and low-income earners are being moved into digital space with increasing options for receiving salaries, paying bills, transferring money, and engaging in various transactions. Service providers and business owners are recognizing that it's advantageous to increase competition through improved choices while facilitating access to financial services for a larger demographic that is often overlooked. It is evident that there is no going back, as Ms. Dawes said it, to the way in which we were. This access by the financially disengaged will drive competition and facilitate the development of consumer-centered benefits, including lower products and service costs, low fees, or no fees. And you have heard the finance minister in his presentation recently speaking about Jamaica. I want the advantage of Jamaica, of course, no fees. However, as much as we're making strides in the digital financial space, there are many who are at risk of being left behind or of falling prey to unfair and legal practices. And so we are obligated to educate, inform, and empower our population, including our 280,000 seniors who are not very tech savvy. We must take steps to ensure that they and others who are vulnerable are included in this financial space. And let me just pause a minute. I remember there was a bank in my community, one of my communities said that moved out, closed the branch and transferred the activities to another branch in our Johnny town. And one of the biggest sponsors we had was the seniors, because they installed, quite rightly, a number of intelligent ATM machines, but we were fearful that our seniors would have been left behind, and therefore we made suggestions of how we could incorporate our seniors in that transition period so they could understand exactly, because they're really not tech savvy, but they need to be a part of this digital landscape. So we're very successful in that, and we're happy that the bank worked with us so that we could include and onboard a number of our seniors in this new digital space. So I therefore implore the business community, especially providers of digital services that are essential to daily life, and to create products, spaces, and events that are inclusive and accessible to all Jamaicans. The government has taken several steps to protect and educate our consumers. Among the initiatives is a national consumer policy coordinated by the Consumer Affairs Commission that will establish a formal structure to enhance consumer protection policies amongst government ministries, departments, and agencies, and other stakeholder groups who work directly or indirectly with our consumers. The government has also expanded the financial offerings with the DOJ Digital Challenges, which will open doors for fast, no fees, cashless transactions enabled by smartphones. So imagine, Miss Molly in St. Mary, who urgently needs her medication. Her granddaughter, who is making the purchase, is in Kingston, but is unable to make a trip to the country. But she'll be able to pay the pharmacy in St. Mary through her account on DOJ Jamdex platform, and therefore Miss Maud, the Jamdex will literally be a lifesaver. In 2018, the World Bank report, and it was posited that gaining access to basic financial services such as transactions, accounts, credit, savings, and insurance help the poor to increase their standard of living by being able to make simple transactions more efficiently. In rural Jamaica, this may mean saving of thousands of dollars for transportation and removing the worry of traveling with cash to pay their bills. And I know that well for our deep rural areas of southeast St. Mary. But however, there is cautionary side to engaging in the digital space, and the user has a responsibility to guard against the pitfalls. The government too has a role to play in ensuring that the legislation is the place. Tech used to say Act of 2020. So on this World Consumer Rights Day 2022, our goal is to ensure our consumers are informed. And it is with this in mind that we have invited presenters to update all of us about the benefits of digital payment services for everyday essentials such as water, electricity, telecommunications. So on behalf of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, I reiterate our commitment to pursue policies and programs that will facilitate the rights of the consumer, and to extend our resources where possible to entities which offers digital financial services that places our consumers' protection and empowerment at their core. This, I believe, will improve the lives of all Jamaicans, especially rural Jamaicans, but of course urban Jamaicans, rich or poor, young or old, and we look forward in embracing this new direction that the world has gone. I believe it will be with pitfalls, yes, but it will be a glorious opportunity for us to be equal to everywhere else on this planet. So, thank you very much for productive World Consumer Rights Day. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that very energizing presentation. I think the theme that we are working under and keeps coming up is empowerment of our consumers and ensuring that the most vulnerable are protected. And I think we'll see that as a thread through all the presentation. And the CAC is not only about talk, it's about action. And it is through the promulgation of the National Consumer Policy, through the educational sessions that they've been having on Facebook, on Twitter, through access to their offices, because The goal, the mandate of the Consumer Affairs Commission is consumer empowerment. And whilst we understand that the digital transformation will undoubtedly give us greater access to perhaps MSMEs, as the minister mentioned, to provide goods and services to consumers, and has a myriad of benefits, we are also cognizant of the drawbacks. And this is why we are celebrating this day. And it's not just about celebration, it's about action, which is why we have a panel of distinguished guests to provide additional information for consumers to be empowered. Our next speaker is Ms. Colette Good, specialist in consumer affairs policy, and she comes with a wealth of experience from the OUR. I will not go any further in the introduction because I want to give her as much time as possible for her presentation, so you can learn about the policies being pursued by the OUR and how they will add to empowering consumers. Thank you. Ms. Good?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, viewers on Facebook, and thank you so much, Ms. Ashpole. And I'd also like to thank the CAC for this opportunity to share in the celebration of World Consumer Rights Day, and also to share some information on the benefits that consumers can derive through utility digitization. Now, in this presentation, I will briefly define what digitization is. I'll also indicate how the utility service providers have digitized their operations. We will talk about how the consumers can benefit from utility digitization. And as Ms. Ashpole indicated, we'll also look at some of the drawbacks that customers experience as a result of utility service providers' digitization. Now, digitization refers to the conversion of text, picture, or sound into a format that can be used by a computer. It is also described as the adaptation of systems, processes, procedures, to be operated with the use of computers and the internet. Therefore, from this definition, the ability to host this virtual town hall in keeping with the restrictions of COVID-19 is because of digitization. These utility service providers have digitized. How? They have integrated the use of technology, such as computers and internet, in their daily operations, and they have achieved this by developing and maintaining their websites, as well as apps, as well as developing and maintaining their social media presence, because we know that in this era of digitization, having a social media presence and website and apps is very critical. Some examples of utility service providers' digitization, you can see them. They have apps, as I've mentioned. Both major telecommunication service providers have their apps, the My Digital app, as well as the Flow app. JPS has also developed its app. The NWC has not yet developed an app, but it has provided a dedicated area on its website, which it refers to as its customer web access portal, that allows customers to access information, make requests, and do similar things that can be done through the apps that have been developed by the other service providers. Additionally, both the JPS and the NWC have rolled out smart meters across the country. And these meters allow both the service providers as well as the customer to collect information such as their consumption, and so that they can monitor their consumption, as well as the service providers will use that information for billing purposes. We are also aware that for the JPS smart meters, for example, it can provide JPS with information relating to outages, whether at a specific premises or in an area, so that those incidents of power outages can be corrected within a short period of time or as quickly as is possible. Specific to the NWC smart meter, it can provide both the NWC and the customer with information on whether there is a possible leak at the premises, because we know that being provided with that information can mean a lot of savings in terms of dollars to consumers. So these are just a few of the examples in which the utility service providers have digitized. So how can this digitization benefit the consumers? It can benefit consumers in a myriad of ways. So I'm just going to highlight a few. And the first one is it provides for convenience. You can make contact with your utility service provider from anywhere on the planet. You don't even have to be in Jamaica, and at any time. It allows for that convenience. You can make contact with them through their websites, through their apps, regarding any request or issue that you may have with the service. Additionally, through digitization, information is literally at your fingertips. Digitization has allowed the utility service providers to provide easy and quick information to its customers. As long as the customers have access to a smartphone or any device, as well as a computer, you can get information that you need from your utility service provider. Through digitization, service providers are able, consumers are able to easily conduct transactions with their service providers. You can be at home, pay your utility bill. You can make requests for a transfer of service, or even to apply for service, whether through the app or through their website. And all of this has been possible because the utility service providers have incorporated digitization into their operations. It also facilitates faster turnaround times and speedy resolutions, because through digitization, the service providers have been able to more efficiently streamline their processes and procedures. And so, through that efficient streamlining of their processes and procedures, when customers make a request, for example, instead of having to send a request for a transfer of service through the regular mail, that can be done now through the JPS app, as I'm aware. You can also even maybe send an email, and the service provider receives that request in a more timely manner and is therefore able to respond to that request and I'll provide you with the service in a shorter period of time. Improved customer service provider relationship is another benefit from utility digitization. Digitization allows the service provider to collect information on its customers so that it can, at the end of the day, provide personalized, targeted service to each customer. For example, I'm aware that JPS has what it calls its special needs program, and through that program, for example, as customers, a customer who qualifies for service under that program, the service will not be immediately disconnected just because the customer has been delinquent in making the monthly payment. Certain activities, for example, making contact with that customer, will be carried out before any disconnection exercise will be done. But of course, as with everything, there are some drawbacks. So in spite of all of those benefits that digitization has resulted in with the service providers, there are drawbacks. And one of the first one that comes to mind is the reduced person-to-person interface. As a matter of fact, JPS advised that the basis on which it decided to close several of its parish offices recently is because approximately 70% of its customers have been utilizing its online channels through which to make contact and make requests with the company. So that information was used to take the decision to close some of the parish offices. Another drawback is the risk of having underserved customers, because there will be some customers who, for one reason or another, may not be able to use the digitized channels provided by the utility service providers. I can think of persons with disability. Whatever the disability is, it may be visual impairment. So they may not be able to read the fine print, for example, that in how certain information is presented on the apps that these service providers have developed. You may also have persons who may not have a disability, but because of maybe the aged, they may not be as au fait with manipulating these other channels that the service providers have developed using digitization. So as a result, there is the risk of some of the customers of the service providers not being served properly. There are also cost implications, because in order for the consumers to be able to use these digitized channels, they have to ensure that there is data on they have data and or internet service, and there is a cost to having the data and internet service. So there's also that drawback with respect to digitization. And finally, there is the risk of consumers not being provided with sufficient information. For example, where billing information is being provided by way of text messages, it may not provide all the details that would have been provided on a bill. And so the customer may not have all the information that he or she needs about the bill and bill history and so on, because of how that billing information is presented to the customer. So we have heard about the benefits. We have also highlighted some of the drawbacks, but utility digitization is the way forward. It's the way the world is going. And so I will implore consumers to ensure that as best as possible, utilize the benefits that you can derive with your service providers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Good, for that presentation and for highlighting the many benefits as well as the pitfalls. I believe the reduced in-person interaction is a great risk. And while we appreciate all the benefits that were outlined, we have, as I would have said before, as stakeholders in this together to see how we can mitigate against those challenges as we speak about protecting the vulnerable. So thank you for that, but this is a work in progress, and this is something that the Consumer Affairs Commission, I'm sure, is willing to continuously work with the OUR and other partners to ensure that at each step, the consumers are protected, because at the end of the day, it is what it is about. We are aware that this is where the world is going and we can't avoid it, but let's go there in the best way forward. Our next presenter is from, and I believe this presentation is rightly placed, because our next presenter is from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And I believe he will come to us in highlighting how we can do, we can be better at protecting our consumers and securing our consumers while we traverse this digital transformation sphere. Welcome, Mr. Amin Fagan from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Mr. Fagan is the Director of International Social Security, and we look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Fagan.
Good morning. I must say, Miss Ashpole is setting me up, but I'll take that. And other members on the panel, and it's a pleasure being here. And as you have said, the ministry will play its role, but actually we are actually looking forward to partnering with CAC to guide us. As it is that, you know, we provide pensions. That's basically when you hear about the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, that's what you think about. Pension at the end of, going to the end of your life cycle. But we would want now for us to think about what it is that will cause us to be prepared for this end of cycle, or near end of cycle. Some of us will want to live forever like myself, but how will we continue to live if we don't have the correct things in place? So the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, as the name states, has various aspects: labor and social security. So it simply means while you labor, you prepare for when you retire. So with the labor and the social security, in terms of digitization, we are mostly manual. And this is where now the actual digitization comes in place, and how we transition, how we move people from the manual process to getting digital. Because as you know, it's change management that will be required to say to persons, look here, the old way, as we have all been saying, is that old, and we'll not be going back to that. But then again, also, we have to be careful, because we have persons who are vulnerable and who are still afraid of the digital world, because you have heard a lot of things, scamming, all sort of stuff. Persons really and truly don't want to know that their welfare that they have worked for all of their life at the end of their retirement cycle is gone. So for us in the Social Security Division, and as it falls under one of the social protection in the Vision 2030, is that we need to find ways in terms of ensuring that persons come in from the informal sector into the formal sector to contribute to their welfare. And as we have said earlier on, we have the National Insurance Scheme, which is a contributory scheme, where if you pay into the scheme, and I want us to be key for consumers affairs when persons speak, we have to be careful that this is a contributory scheme. So the only way you will benefit from the National Insurance Scheme is if you contribute. And by contributing, we mean you have worked in the formal sector where you work with an employer, the deduction is made, and it is paid over through our partner entity, which is TAJ, and these contributions are forwarded to NIS and will update your record. You are also able to contribute as a self-employed person, and this is done by using a stamp card, which is again a manual process. You buy the stamps at the post office, you bring them in, and we'll update your record. Now, we are actually at the NIS now looking into moving. As we speak, yesterday we were having a discussion as it relates to how we can digitize that process where it is easier for persons to contribute. Because sometimes the reality is that persons, then they say, I can't bother walk go down and so go buy a stamp at post office, then me carry the stamp up by NIS office, then me join this long line, and then who knows what happens. So we are looking into the process of making this process easier for persons to just go on their smartphone, log in, pay for their contributions, and they're guaranteed that their data or their information will be updated. We are also looking at, we are saying we have collected your money throughout your working years. At the time for you to get your benefit, you don't want to be bothered with going in line to go and make an application, submit the documentation, and it takes forever. It should be an easy process where you go online, log in, submit the required documents, and the process should be easier. So we are actively looking at putting these services online to ensure that persons, when they do retire, it is easy as 1, 2, 3. But also, again, we are dealing with a transitioning population. We have the elderly that already exists, 80s, 90s, and 100. And we also have the young persons who are contributing now. So we have to just be careful and be mindful on how we digitize so that no one gets left behind. So the National Insurance Scheme, the Ministry of Labour is always open, listen to suggestions. We'll certainly listen to the Consumer Affairs Commission, who from time to time calls us with persons having complaints, because that sometimes, I guess, the message is lost because it is not clear. So I think what we are actually doing is trying to go to the public for them to understand what does that mean. So for instance, somebody is getting a pension. What are the requirement is that for you to continue receiving your pension, there are certain requirements. You need to submit what is called a life certificate. If your life certificate is not submitted, then the pension will stop. Why? In terms of we paying a pension continuous without knowing if this person is alive, it's a risk to the National Insurance Scheme, it's a risk to the ministry, and it's also maybe we are paying into an account where the person doesn't exist. But if persons don't know, then they don't know. Currently, the life certificate is a manual process again. We mail it to the post office, the person collects it, takes it to a JP endorses it, and you bring it back to the National Insurance Scheme, and we enter it in the system, and the continuation of the pension is there. Again, we are currently looking at digitizing that process where we can email it to the pensioner. The pensioner does what is supposed to happen and email it back to us. So we are looking at our processes to see again how we can make the contact minimal, and we are dealing with elderly, and we know Corona is with us. We don't even know when the end date is. So we have to actually say, in terms of keeping persons safe, find the easiest way in which to allow them to communicate with us effectively so that their benefits are not stopped and it is guaranteed. So in terms of the National Insurance Scheme, the Ministry of Labour, the consumers, or the customers as we want to call them, have that right to find out what is that mean to their contributions. So if you work with an entity and a deduction is being made from your salary, you need to know what is that mean to this contribution. So is it that we are going to say each time you need to know, you need to visit the NIS office? Unfortunately, no, that is what you'll have to do. So again, we are looking at an app that will be available to each person. You can sign in, log in, and then you can check your contributions. Because what we have found is that a lot of employers, they do deduct from the employees, but some of them don't pay it over. So it is unfortunate that we, while we are working, probably all of us here, we have never ever yet checked on our contributions. And the only time we check is when we retire. And sometimes we work at a company for 30, 40 years, 25 years, 10 years, 5 years. You look at your pay slip, the contribution is being deducted. And then you retire because you think it is being paid over. When you come to the NIS and we say, look here, we don't have a contribution. You say, but me work all of my life and then we get a beating, but there's nothing for you because your employer did not pay it over. So one of the things is that we are encouraging persons to check, but on the other hand, we should make it easier for you to check. So this is something, it's not fantasy we're telling you, is that we have actually in the employer, in the ministry, have been looking at these ways in which we can say to the clients, you don't probably need to come, you just probably need the app, log into the app, as everybody's having an app now, and you can check your contribution. If you say there's a gap, then you can inform us and we can investigate. So this is where the ministry, in terms of all of our program in terms of social security, is moving to digitize so the clients can feel at ease doing business with us. In terms of you accessing your pension, we are promoting the direct deposit facility where you come in and apply for your pension, you give us your banking information, and at the end of the process, if you qualify, the money will go to your bank account at the end of each month. So this is something that we are doing, and we are trying to transition the persons who are receiving the pension via books to the bank account. Because again, as my colleague has said from OEI, it's easier, it's more convenient, it's safer. Luckily for some of the pensioners, our pension is not yet great where if you get robbed, you say, boy, I lose a great deal of money. But then again, when you don't have anything at all, $1 is a lot. So it doesn't make sense to have the pensioners in this environment going to the post office, although they use the post office as a means of socializing. Yes, they do. So we are having some form of resistance in terms of getting some of the pensioners to opt to the banking. But we have held their hands, we have asked them, and some are gradually coming over because they have realized that it is easier based on the fact that we have mentioned JPS, Water Commission, everything can be done online. So it just makes sense your money goes into a bank account and you can pay your bill online. So the pensioners who have not yet opted to go online, we're not forcing them, because the reality is that some persons have opted to go online because we're promoting it. So they have brought their bank account and the money is going to the bank account, but there's also another challenge. They don't know how to use the ATM machines. And we have to really know that this is a reality. So persons are getting the money going into your bank account. So you'll find that sometimes if you go to the bank account, you might send out a card and someone might say, come here, come and help me draw the money. And you end up drawing the money. So we have to be careful of the fact that while we want it to be safer, we have to wonder how safe it is really going to be. So again, we have to be using the means of actually using persons' hands, all their hands, and not everybody wants their families in their business. Because sometimes you'll come and they say they don't want their husband to know, they really don't, or they don't want their grandkids to know, so they want to stay with the book. So while they may have an account, you sometimes have to look at the reason as to why they don't want persons, and we try to work with it that way. But see, likewise with PATH, because NIS is a contributory scheme, PATH is for persons who are most vulnerable. They did not work, or they did not contribute, or they were shafted. Their contribution was not paid over to the scheme, so they were not able to get a NIS pension. So the government supplemented these persons. And the reality is that when you look at the PATH beneficiaries, most of them come from a low socioeconomic background, and they are not too tech savvy again. So we still find that the PATH persons, we have transitioned them to the remittance services, to the banks, and also some are remaining with checks. So the ministry has a wide range of delivery of our benefits to the clients, but as we have been saying here, while we digitize and want to ensure persons' well-being and viability, we have to be just careful as to the step that we take. Try to educate the younger ones for the digital world and with all the hands of the elderly. All right, so with the CAC, probably we can also work on greater solutions to ensure that we don't fall back. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fagan, for that presentation. I think the main takeaway from here is that we should all check our NIS contribution. But on a serious note, while that was also serious, I was excited by the fact that the Ministry of Social Security spoke about transitioning or having a two-pronged approach where we're transitioning to the digital sphere, but we're also holding the hands of the most vulnerable. And we do appreciate that because a lot of our elderly and our most vulnerable are also reliant on their daughters, granddaughters, grandsons, sons to do these transactions. And so transferring all of this to a digital sphere will make it easier for everyone. And I can speak for myself, if I may. The next presenter is, we're switching gears a little bit. We'll be having Mrs. Shanique Donaldson McIntosh from the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited, speaking about service digitization and the consumer. And I will not delay any further because I know that our viewers online and in the room are looking forward to hearing from JPS. And as a matter of fact, I noticed something. Even though I consider myself digitally savvy, I am having a hard time speaking into the camera and speaking to the audience. I think many of my presenters are also having that challenge. And so we should be mindful of our audience online. And so I apologize on behalf of the team here for looking away and not looking directly at you, audience online. Mrs. McIntosh?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. Thanks to the Consumer Affairs Commission for the opportunity today to share in World Consumer Rights Day. It's always a pleasure for us at JPS to share with our customers in whatever way that we can. The presentation today, I'll be going through quickly a number of areas. I'll be speaking about the industry trends that would have led us to where we are today, or changing customer behavior, the JPS strategic pillars that we're using to move us into this wave of digital transformation. And I'll be looking a little bit in depth in how we're accelerating our digital transformation and giving our customers more choice and control. Now, since about 10 years ago, we recognized that we had some trends emerging in the utility landscape, and specifically to the electricity sector. And we recognized that with the rise of some powerful players, some powerful service providers such as Amazon and Apple, we had our customers' expectations changing. And as you can see, some of the emerging trends that we came upon, we had changes in our distributed energy, digitalization, electrification. I spoke about the changing customer expectations and also a move towards clean energy. For the purpose of our discussion today, I'll just zooming on digitalization and the changing in customer expectations. Now, I spoke about the rise of companies such as Apple and Amazon. And what we found happening is that they were providing such awesome experience for our customers that when customers had to deal with other entities, they were saying that, hold on, listen, I'm not used to this because when I do business with an Amazon, this is the service that I get. So no longer was poor service being tolerated by any organization across the board because of the standard that was set by these organizations. And so the customers' expectations began changing. Now, for JPS, certainly, some of those trends were accelerated due to COVID-19. And what we saw happening was really phenomenal, actually, because, we actually started our digitalization process years ago, but it was not catching on as quickly as we wanted it to. But we recognize that with COVID, we saw that shift in our customer behavior, it just changed drastically. So for example, in 2019, we had approximately 2.6 million contacts from our customers. In 2020, that went over the 3 million mark to 3.1 million, and in 2021, 3.5 million. So here we have more customers who are making contact with the utility for whatever reason. And we recognize even with the COVID era, what drew some of these contacts, had to do with the work at home arrangement, work from school arrangement. Persons were now more mindful of electricity supply being reliable at home, because when you lose electricity, then you lose your Wi-Fi, you lose your internet, which is your main driving force for working and for doing school from home. And so we saw a number of customers making contacts with us because of that. Also, what we found is that because we had companies shuttering their doors and persons were out of jobs, we found a lot of persons making contact with the utility as well to work out on payment arrangements and things like that. What we saw as well happening with our customer behavior is that we saw a shift from the utilization of our traditional channels, as we call them, so more the brick and mortar office, to more, and as the term says, more click and order. So we found more of our customers now going online and switching from actually walking into the office. And of course, again, COVID would have accelerated this because persons, wanted to stay in more, you didn't want to go in crowds. And so doing business online now became a necessity for a lot of customers. And so what we found is that we saw the trend just moving. Our walk-in customers, our parish visits, we saw moving from like 23% to 14% in 2020. And of course, with the closure of some of our offices, now we're at a 4% customers who are actually visiting our offices now. And what we saw happening, though, is that in the digital space, we saw the reverse. We saw the improvements and the increase happening there. And just want to point out as well that even with our mobile app, which I'll speak about, in a few, is that because we first launched our mobile app in 2016, and we had about 20,000 customers. However, when we recognized what was happening, the change in customer behavior, the more demands for customers to actually go online and to serve themselves, then we upgraded the app that we had. And I can tell you, and I see Andrea does in our chat sort of bigging up the JPS mobile app. As I said before, I speak a little bit more about that, but it is one of the best tools that we actually have and could have given our consumers. And we saw where right now 14% of our customers are actually on our mobile app. That's about 14% of our customer contacts we get through our mobile app. And we have approximately 300,000 customers who are now registered on the JPS mobile app, which is almost 50% or a little under 50% of our customer base, which is awesome. Now, when we saw what was happening in terms of the emerging trends and the acceleration of digitization and the customers just demanding a lot more of JPS, then as an organization, we had to take a step back. We had to look back at our business, look back at where we want to go and how we wanted to serve our customers. And we came up with these strategic pillars that will lead the organization into this new era. Again, I'll just focus on the two, but the 5 strategic pillars for JPS right now is fostering a passionate and agile team and culture, accelerating our digital transformation, giving our customers more choice and control, leveraging our core competencies to grow the business, and protecting our core business and improving fast. Now, the pillars, for sure, are fully embedded and form the foundation of JPS. And at the core of that foundation is customer empowerment and our customers, certainly supported by our digital transformation. And of course, our core business of poles and wires will always be there. And that is what we'll use to cement our pillars. But the focus and the core of how we move forward has to be customers and has to be customer empowerment. Now, how are we at JPS accelerating our digital transformation? So for one, digital transformation looks at, we look at a couple core elements, a number of core elements. We look at customer understanding, customer touch points, how we digitally modify our business, how we process digitization, and how we use digitization in our performance management. Now, first and foremost, last year we would have embarked on a journey of transformation, and included in that journey of transformation is us digitizing our customers' journey. So I'll speak a little bit more on how we would have mapped our customers' journey, but coming out of that customer journey mapping, we would have looked at the various pain points and the recommendations that were made in order to overcome those pain points had to do with a lot of our digital solutions. We look at optimizing the use of our smart grid technologies to improve data analytics, and I know Colette had mentioned it earlier, that right now with our smart meters, we have approximately 455,000 smart meters, which is approximately 65% of our customer base, who are smart meter customers, and we have that deployed right across the country. And our smart meter technology, is doing wonders for us, because right now we're able, as Colette indicated, when a customer loses supply, right now we're able to tell whether, they would have been disconnected for non-payment or there's an issue on our grid. And what we're looking at now, and this is now happening even with our customers on our mobile app, is that you're now getting those notifications. So you no longer need to say, listen, I wonder if JPS knows that I don't have any light. No, we know, and we're letting you know that we know. And also, we're providing you with your estimated restoration time, and every step of the way, you know what's happening. So the crew is en route, they're now working. If there's going to be a delay in electricity restoration, then you're getting those notifications. So when we speak about accelerating our digital transformation, those are some of the things we're doing. We've also been expanded our customer touch points as well. So remember, traditionally we had 15 parish offices island-wide. With the movements we saw on our customer behavior, we would have closed some of those offices because, of course, no organization really has unlimited resources. So what we had to do is to look at the most efficient way to serve our customers and to meet our customers where they are. So we didn't see our customers, or the majority of our customers, now walking into a brick and mortar office. They were now doing business online. And so we would have moved some of our resources to serve our customers there. Also, when I speak about expanding our touch points, we speak about just being in the social media space. You can call the name, JPS is there. We're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we offer customer service through those channels as well. So persons are able to send us a direct message and you will be served. So now we've moved from just the traditional, walk-in and on the phone to expanding and to meeting our customers where you are. We'll also look at driving our different processes in terms of digitizing for those persons who need to apply for electricity supply from JPS. We've digitized that process for you. Once you go in and you sign up for a mobile app on our web portal, then you're now able from start to finish just to process your request through the digital means. And again, we've done a lot of work in that space. So once customers submit, and our guaranteed standards with the OUR speaks to connection within 5 working days, we're now performing way above that because we're now digitized and automated our connection process for our smart meter customers. And so within 2 days, I think now we're 2 days in terms of processing your requests and doing your connections. And that's really far away from where we're coming from. Also, I would speak about performance management, because in order for any of this to work, we have to be able to measure and to monitor and to drive continuous improvements of the system and of the people. And so just, this driving digital transformation with the different analytics that we'll be getting from the different systems will actually aid us in doing that. Now, just want to speak a little bit on, giving our customers more choice and control. So I spoke earlier of digitizing the customer's journey. But what we did in 2021 is to actually take a step back, look at all the reasons why customers would have been contacting us, and to go through those reasons from start to finish and to identify where are the pain points, where in these processes are our customers not happy with us. And we have put together, just a list of recommendations and solutions, drive digital solutions at the forefront, of course, to overcome some of those pain points. Also, I spoke about us expanding our touch points, but along with expanding our touch points, what we have done as well is to upgrade, to take those touch points a little further. So when we first introduced our web chat in 2018, we recognized that took off. We had so many of our customers utilizing that platform. And, again, because of resource limitations at some point, because we need to be more efficient with our customers, what we decided to do, and when we listened to our customers and we heard the pain points, we introduced our chatbot. Now, the chatbot is actually a self-service platform that sits on top of our web chat. And so right now we introduced that last year, and we'll be building on that to make it a more feature-rich application. So again, you don't need to be waiting in any line to speak with any agent or any queue to speak with any agent. Once you make contact with us on our web chat platform, you'll have your features there. If it's a bill balance you want, you enter your account number and your bill balance is there, right? And we're looking at implementing something similar on our social media as well, because we do have our customers making contact with our social media. Listen, the whole point of us doing this is to ensure that we provide convenient solutions for our customers. We want to ensure that when you're in your bed at night, if you remember that, I didn't pay the bill, you can literally pick up your phone and pay your bill without having to think about begging time from work tomorrow to go down at a payment agency to make payments. No, it's convenience and the power in your hands. And, I want to pause again and just sort of mention our mobile app. That has been doing, and based on the feedback from our customers, we can only go up from here with our mobile app. One of the main features, and we're speaking about giving customers more choice and control, is just the ability on that mobile app to be able to track your usage. And to know, sometimes we're at work and the kids are at home, we don't know what's happening there, and then at the end of the month you get this bill and you're trying to figure out what exactly happened. No, we want to eliminate that surprise for you. So once you have our mobile app, then you're able to track your usage on an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly basis for smart meter customers, right? And with the continued rollout, we're going to get to everybody, and everyone will have that benefit. But can you imagine just having that power to know that, okay, so yesterday, I used 20 kilowatt hours. No, I need to step it down today. So I need everybody in the household to understand that we're not doing more than 5 today. And you have that strict management in place, and that is what a lot of our customers are doing. And also we have the feature where you can set your budget. And it tells you when you've exceeded your budget again. So it gives you more control of your lifestyle and of your finances, certainly. So, the more you spend, the more you save somewhere else is where you can spend. And especially with what is happening now in the world, and the oil prices just continuing to go up, then just having the ability to control some of these things are going to be very important. And so I encourage everyone, again, if you've not yet downloaded the JPS mobile app, please do so and register. It's awesome. You will not be disappointed. Moving on, so we have expanded our prepaid system as well. Again, when we speak about, giving our customers more choice and control, prepaid is one such service to do so. Because again, it works similar to your phone if you have to top up with credit, and when credit runs out, then you have to top up again. what we find, and then prepaid services for everyone. Right now, we have approximately 12,000 customers on our prepaid solution, and it's customers right across the different spheres of the Jamaican landscape who are our prepaid customers. Because what it does is to give you that management, similar to what the mobile app does in terms of with our postpaid customers, where you can track those. When you have a prepaid system, then it sort of forces you to manage, you know, your finances and your consumption, your electricity usage a lot more. And also, I mean, for persons who have income properties too, and you have to rent, it's easier too, because what you find sometimes is that when you get persons coming in, especially persons who rent out for Airbnb, and you know, you have visitors who just come in and leave your AC running all day, and you know, you can utilize your prepaid solutions for those properties as well. So as I said before, it's for everyone. And we've moved a step further. We've started utilizing our digitalization. So right now with our prepaid services, we are now able to convert our customers who are on our smart meter customers seamlessly from postpaid to prepaid. So, I mean, if it's something that you're considering, it shouldn't be that, boy, you don't want to do it because the process is so difficult. No, it is not. Once you're the account holder, you just send us an email, just advise us that, boy, you're thinking you want to make that change from postpaid to prepaid. Once the assessment is done and you're one of our smart meter customers, that conversion can easily be done seamlessly. All right, so again, it's making it easier for our customers, and it's putting the choice and control in your hands. We speak about choice and control, but I just want to speak about giving our customers a voice as well, because that's important to us. And so what we've continued to do is to deploy surveys right across. So right now we have post-interaction surveys across all our interaction channels. So if you reach out to us on web chat after that interaction, there's a survey presented, because it's important for us to know where it is that we need to improve. How is it that we're serving you, and how can we serve you much better? We also, on an annual basis, we conduct our CSAT survey, and I can tell you a lot of our offerings for our customers now would have come from some of those recommendations from those surveys, and customers want us to serve them differently, and we've listened, and that's what we're actually doing. So for JPS, as I said before, the future looks bright for our customers in terms of, you know, giving you more choice, giving you more choice and control. I mean, you know, and this is always the point of discussion where it comes on to the cost of electricity, which is a very complex discussion and needs a lot of persons at that table to have that discussion. But what is in JPS's control and what we can offer to our customers is just literally giving you the power in your hands through our various digitalization and expanding our customer touch points. So as I open and I'll close this way, the utility customers are demanding services from us just beyond providing electricity. And I spoke about it's not just giving you kilowatt hours and we leave you there. No, it's this constant communication with us. And we have an awesome communication team with us at JPS where we do our proactive communication. If we have planned outages, we tell you 48 to 72 hours in advance so you can plan your business around it, right? And wherever you are, so whether you're in the traditional space or the social media space or the digital space, we're going to find you and we're going to communicate with you because we want you to always be in the know and we want you to know what is happening. So, just moving forward, we're going to see a lot more from JPS. We're going to see our continued push in the digital space. We're moving now, so we're into this whole sphere of digitization, but our next step is going to be automation because that's where the true benefit is going to lie, right? I mean, you take your papers now and you put them online and you digitize them, but we need our customers to, once you submit, you don't need to wait 24 hours for a response. Once the review is done by the system and you qualify, then you get that information right away that, listen, you qualify for an extension, or you qualify for your prepaid service, or you get your emergency top-up for prepaid just right away without it having to go in a back end, and then you get a message to say, we'll respond to you in 24 hours. So automation is big on our agenda, and it's the next step for us. And just to close off, personalization. So when all of this is said and done, and we have all the data in the world, the data has to account for something. So yes, right now, it's accounting for just, mass communication with our customers. We're now able to communicate with our customers. We know who's residential, we know who's commercial. But the data that we're going to get from digitizing our processes is going to allow us to know exactly who you are. What is your preferences? How do you want us to communicate with you? What is your usage like? And that will now help us to tailor whatever services that will come on stream to the person, instead of sending Mr. Rowe something that you don't need, but then I can send Colette, because based on what I know of Colette and the data that I've gathered for Colette, then this service would be perfect for Colette. So guys, thank you so much for your time. And I just implore all customers, get on the JPS mobile app and just continue to provide the feedback, because we want to improve to serve you better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shanique. And I didn't do her introduction, but she showed us that she is a great communicator, and her background is in marketing and communication. And I after this presentation, I don't think anyone has any doubt in terms of her abilities to effectively communicate. You saw how she answered the question about prices. I am especially grateful for the thread that ran through her presentation about choice and control, and giving customers greater access through the JPS app. I, for one, when she spoke about the person who remembers about their bill in the middle of the night and rolls over to pay it, I am one of those persons. So I am grateful for the app. And definitely, Shanique is someone that understands the customer experience, because I see that she's here having worked 16 years at JPS, and it showed in the wealth of knowledge she delivered today. I am sure that our audience is burning with questions, but we have a dedicated question and answer session after our last presentation, and we have, well, certainly last but definitely by no means least, Professor Paul Golding. He is the former dean of the College of Business Management at UTech, and he's now the adjunct professor at UWI. He specializes, he's quite a dynamic man. He is an innovator, a consultant, a guest columnist, an author, and a philanthropist. And so, without further ado, I will welcome Professor Paul Golding to the stage to deliver his presentation on customer choice in financial decision. Welcome, Professor Golding.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for inviting me to the Consumer Affairs Commission contribution to Fair Digital Finance and International Consumers Day. I feel like the Grinch, though, coming on at the end. I feel like with all these upbeat presentations from the Office of Utilities Regulation, the Ministry of Finance, and certainly from JPS, I feel like, no, I'm coming to do the cleanup kind of a thing. But I must proceed. So I'm looking at consumer choice in financial decisions. And I'm going to just go through this as quickly as possible. I'm going to first look at digital transformation, followed by what is consumer decision. And then we're going to look at digital financial inclusion, vulnerable groups, the risk that all this digitization is also bringing with it, and then I'll conclude. All right, so let's look at digital transformation. And this is the adoption of digital technologies to transform services. And we have heard about all the transformation of services that is taking place, some of them that are in progress. And so this is a transformation of business services to replace outdated, in some cases digital, and in some cases non-digital technologies with upgraded technologies. And we see around us exactly what is taking place. We see there's ends, we talk about JPS just now, there's still a lot of classes taking place online. We can do our banking at any time of the day or night. And last week, it was announced by the Minister of Finance about Jamaica's digital currency. So all of this digitization, this transformation is taking place around us. And with COVID, it is taking place at a very, very rapid pace. There was a lot of talk about students carrying cell phones to school and all that kind of a thing. Now, they're expected to have these things at school. They're expected to be using these things as part of doing classes, whether online or offline. They're expected to have these things because their teachers and lecturers and what have you will be communicating with them via these devices. So the world has changed in a significant way, and it has been done so rapidly. So with this, we want to look at consumer choice. And consumer choice should not be eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Consumer choice must be such that consumers have all the information to make informed decisions. All right? So let's look at what consumer choice is. And I don't want to sound so much like an academic with around the persons that have gone before me, but I must. Consumers are always trying to get the most of their limited budget. That's a given. In economic terms, consumers are trying to maximize total utility or satisfaction given their budget constraint. So the customers will decide to make certain decisions based on convenience and or based on money. All right? So that's what consumer choice is about. And like I say, consumers should be fully educated so that you are not doing eeny, meeny, miny, moe. Now, for us to do our transformation effectively, it must be inclusive. An inclusive financial system provides all people with the ability to access, utilize, and reap the benefits of the full suite of financial products and services that facilitate stability, resilience, and long-term financial security, not just for the individual, but for the country. And I just want to emphasize this, that when we're looking at financial inclusion, we're not just looking at the individual or the country, we are looking at both. So what we want to do is to build an ecosystem that with all that is said, persons can easily and effectively use digital products, digital services to do whatever they want to do. Now, let's look at some barriers to access to digital services in Jamaica. Digital services, access to digital services generally skewed. Persons who are unskilled, persons who do not have electricity, for instance, are going to find it more difficult to access services, these services, as opposed to persons who have access, one, to electricity, and two, to internet, so to have internet connectivity. The other problem that is a barrier to access, financial access, is the know your customer requirements. They're very invasive in some ways. They turn off people, and what you find is that persons will say, listen, I can't bother, based on all of the things that are required. It is also estimated, and I'm not sure how reliable this number is, but this is the only number I've seen, is that about 70% of the Jamaican population is either unbanked or underbanked. Another barrier to access are the fees that banks charge. Now, I don't want to go into a criticism of the banks because the banks are in business to make money. And if they see that their profits are going down, one of the things that they're going to do is to increase fees to facilitate these profits. But at the same time, what it does is to make it more difficult for persons to be financially inclusive because the fees are barriers. So these are some barriers that we have. Another barrier that we have is security. The nature of digital payments, what it does is that the system automatically collects data on you. So this data collection gives rise to fraud and, in some cases, violation of privacy. So that's another barrier. Another huge barrier is what is called in economics, information asymmetry, meaning that the buyer and the seller do not have the same amount of information. And therefore, what happens is that one person take advantage of the other person. And this happens all the time. You see, for instance, when persons are borrowing money, some consumer may struggle as to how do I calculate the true cost of a flat interest rate versus a declining interest rate. I want to make another point here about information asymmetry that a lot of people may not notice. Or if you want to call it it's not deliberate misinformation. When we look even at here, we are seeing some coins, which are bitcoins, right? They kind of represent bitcoins. But there are a lot of persons who consider this as digital currency. And there is a huge difference between Bitcoin and digital currency. And it is not just used here. When I went on the Ministry of Finance website, they also use, and it is on screen, an image of Bitcoin, but we're not talking about the same thing. And these things are fundamentally different and should not be confused at all. Customers should not be confusing Bitcoin with digital currency. Because digital currency is saying, listen, it is the same as having paper money or coins, and therefore it attracts no fees or anything like that, and I can exchange it like for like, as opposed to Bitcoin, which is something totally different, which I don't want to get into here. So let's look at some of the barriers of choice, because what we're saying is that consumers should have choice. What happens is that with e-commerce and other digital transactions, they offer a wider range of choice to customers, not just locally, but also internationally. You can determine that, well, what I want to do is not to buy anything locally. I can buy it from overseas, or I can compare prices overseas with what I'm getting here in Jamaica and so on. In theory and in practice, what happens when consumers have more choice? They are more empowered. They can make decisions on prices, and they can bargain. But what also happens with more choice is that it also limits knowledge. So you may be buying from somebody who doesn't really exist, who is a fraudster, who may not be responsive to complaints if you get something that you don't want, or they may be hiding who they purports to be. And these are some of the problems that you have with digital transaction, right? You may not also have the ability to inspect goods or anything like that, and when you get it and you send it back, there may be problems with you getting back your money, all these kinds of things that we have to take into consideration as we transition more to a digital world. Although we spoke about Shanique spoke about, I'm forgetting, I'll come back to that. Yes, so we have to take these factors into consideration. Now let's look at consumer protection. How do we protect consumers? A major way of protecting consumers is through literacy, and this is digital literacy. And this is such that you need to have digital etiquette, and we tend not to have much digital etiquette on social media. We just cuss out anybody, and we feel like, well, it's okay to do that. There should be both rights and responsibility, and there needs to be digital fluency, meaning that we need to educate our citizens from top to bottom, and this may be one of the areas in which the Consumer Affairs Commission may want to target, because persons who are not knowledgeable about what is going on is going to make eeny, meeny, miny, moe decisions, and we do not want that. All right, and you are going to have all kinds of complaints coming in saying that this is not what I expected, and this is what has actually taken place. So there needs to be consumer protection. Consumer protection involves disclosure, meaning that somebody must know about the services that they're getting before they purchase. The pricing, the purchasing conditions, warranties, refund policy, redress policies, and all of those things before they conclude a transaction. In addition to that, you must know when you're confirming a transaction. And this even happens with children, in which they're doing in an app, and they get to a point, and it says here, for you to go further, you have to do an in-app purchase, right? And you go ahead and you may do the in-app purchase, not knowing that, or you may do something, all you need to do is to click on something, especially if your credit card is already already linked to the account. If it is already linked to the account, the supplier has no problem with you clicking on something and automatically charging you, right? So customers must know when they are confirming a transaction, and they shouldn't find themselves confirming a transaction and then after finding out that, oh, you know, this is not what I wanted to do. These things add convenience, but it also is set up in a way in which what it does is to try to get you to conclude a transaction without you actually knowing. All right? Another big area, and I mentioned this first as a barrier, is data protection. Too many websites operate in which they sell your data to other companies. They don't tell you about this, and they sell it to other companies, and before you know it, all kinds of things start coming up in your account. You're seeing pop up about all kinds of things that you did not want, and you therefore do not trust the website if you start seeing this kind of thing happening. Websites, online suppliers need to let consumer know, and not to hide it in long legal jargon and in which you put it down the bottom. And oftentimes what happens is that you get these things which is quote unquote free, but you have to give up your privacy. And I mean everything. Access to your camera, access to every data, access to everybody in your address book, everything in order to access these things. It should not be so. It should not be that, well, in order to do a transaction, we have to give up all our information and then it is sold to other companies. Some consumer protection advice here. there needs to be clearly stated redress and dispute resolution mechanism in place for consumer, because whenever you do go and buy things, there are always times in which you may want to return the product for one reason or another, and there must be redress and dispute resolution mechanisms in place for consumer. This also helps to build trust, and it establishes fair, accessible, and expeditious redress and dispute resolution. There also needs to be transparency in pricing in digital financial services. Some segments of the population may have low levels of financial and digital literacy, and these persons ought not to be taken advantage of. And I want to look too at persons who have disabilities. I heard persons from the blind community saying that, listen, when these new bills come out, they want to be able to be a part of it in order to be able to identify the bills. So we must look at all our customers, and it should not be that we are concentrating on customers who have no obvious disability. So we need to make sure that we concentrate on that segment. Seniors also, I made mention about seniors and talking about end of life. I got the impression from you that if I go on if I start getting pension, I'm seriously considering end of life. However, I'm happy to hear that JPS is looking at least taking the position that some customers, if they are considered disabled in any way, their electricity will not be terminated forthwith, but they will do investigations. The technology is also there to help to collect data on these persons and to better able to assist persons with disability based on purchasing patterns, because you collect a lot of data, will be able to collect a lot of data on customers, and not just JPS. So there is the need to understand and to collect data on vulnerable customers and to be able to assist them as necessary. So with that, I want to conclude the presentation on trying to, one, create an inclusive digital service for everyone, elderly, young, persons who don't have all the information, as we call it, information asymmetry. And we really do not want our customers to be making, for the third time I'm saying this, eeny, meeny, miny, mo decisions. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Professor Golding. And definitely, we don't want to have any eeny, meeny, miny, mo decisions, but it is all in our interest to ensure that we are not as consumers making eeny, meeny, mo decisions, but as stakeholders in consumer protection, that information is provided so that our consumers do not make eeny, meeny, miny, mo decisions. I got it right. So we're now at the interesting part. We know you have questions for us. I see the chat feature buzzing. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Rowe or Miss Campbell to assist me with reading the questions. And then I will direct the questions to the relevant persons on the panel. Oh, okay. Well, I believe well, I'm seeing commendations, but no questions. Great presentation. Thank you. We're happy that the information was well received. Perhaps members or attendees need some more time to process the information. And if that is the case, the CAC can be reached, again, increasing access and empowering our consumers on its various platforms via its website at www.cac.gov.jm. That's www.cac.gov.jm. Through Facebook at CAC Jamaica, through Twitter at CAC Jamaica as well, and also on YouTube, CAC Jamaica. If you have additional questions, you may also send an email to, and I am aware that the team is very responsive, via the social media pages or through the email info@cac.gov.jm. I am understanding from the team that we now have a question, or we now have questions, apologies. And then I will now ask Ms. Campbell to help me with seeing these questions.
The first question Can you hear me now? The first question is for Mr. Fagan. Is there a timeline for digitization at the NIS?
Thanks for the question. Should I say, it's going to be a continuous process, but I think sometime for this year, we should be getting email access. You can do the live certificate, email, text messages. And so within probably the next year or two, we should see some significant improvement as it relates to digitization. I can't tell you that everything will be completed in 6, 7, or 8 months now. I don't want to be doing that, but I'm saying we'll see significant improvements.
Okay, thank you. Ready for the next question? This is also for Mr. Fagan. Contacting the NIS by telephone is quite challenging. Will the NIS be creating a portal or its website to facilitate ease in checking on our NIS contributions?
All right. Unfortunately, within the last 2 years, we had some telephone issues. That has been resolved now, so you should be having better service as it relates to the telephone. And of course, you can reach us on the website www.mlss.gov.jm, or you can email, it all depends on which area, you can contact the different parish offices. So I'll suggest that wherever you made your claim, a receipt was issued, a telephone number will be on that receipt, so you can call at your parish office and there we can guide you as to what's happening with your claim.
This question is, thank you, Mr. Fagan. The next question is for the JPS. The question is, can you explain how the smart meter works?
Yes. So that may need an entire class, but just to put it into perspective, so the difference between the smart meter and the other meters that are digital but not smart is the ability of the smart meters to be able to communicate your information over wireless networks to the JPS system. So once we install a smart meter at your home, then there is a wireless communication that happens between that meter and the JPS system, and your readings are taken throughout the day and stored in the JPS system, and when it's time to come to bill, then it's automatically billed. But I don't know if I can share my information. If you can share my information in the chat, Mr. Rowe, or if you can get that person's information, so I can actually reach out, because it's a lot in terms of how the smart meter works.
I hope the person received that. You need to reach out. We will get you in touch so you can reach out to get further explanations on that. It's an anonymous attendee, so we're not sure. The National Consumers League have some comments and questions, but they have not written that in the chat, so We're moving on to the next person. You mentioned there is a difference with crypto, and I suspect this is for Professor Golden. You mentioned there is a difference with crypto and digital currency. Could you expand on the difference, and also what are the current digital currencies used and accepted in Jamaica?
Thanks for the question. I'm going to try and make this very brief. Digital currency is a currency which is offered by a country's central bank. It is similar to a dollar bill or any other bill that the government would have produced or minted. So it is just like cash, except that you have it in a digital wallet and you can do transaction with it digitally, and it doesn't attract any fees because it is tantamount to you taking actual cash and doing a transaction. So that's what a digital currency is. A cryptocurrency is something totally different. A cryptocurrency is a currency that is developed online. It has no physical form. It is not backed by any government. It is a speculative currency. So what what you'd be invested in is that you expect that whatever this digital currency is, and let's use Bitcoin for example, your expectation is that Bitcoin will go up in value and you will be able to cash it in at some point and make a return on your investment on it. However, there are some places that do accept digital currency. The question about who in Jamaica accept digital currency, I don't know. Bitcoin, however, is the most widely used, not digital currency, no, cryptocurrency. And you can, in order for you to see what all the digital currencies, sorry, not digital currency, cryptocurrencies are, you can do a search online for cryptocurrency suppliers, and you will see a couple pages well of those suppliers of cryptocurrency. So again, when you're talking about digital currency, you're talking about currency which is tantamount to the currency that a government mints and circulate, while cryptocurrency is something totally different. It is not physical, although you will see coins, pictures of coins and all of that. It is not physical. It is something that is created. It has no backing by government or anybody else. The expectation is that the value of that currency will appreciate, at least as it is now, and you will be able to cash it in at some point. All right?
Thank you, Professor Golden. The next question, the next question, I'll go to this one, NIS. So it's Mr. Fagan again. What steps are being taken to educate persons on the digitized platform?
Okay, thanks again. We are actually in the media. We have actually been using the print media, GIS, the website, and we have been doing flyers in the gleaners, also pullouts. So we are actually trying. We have actually done public address, public education. We have done a lot of a range of stuff. So, but like, since you're asking, I guess we need to ramp it up and do some more then, so we become much more visible. So we make that suggestion. We have actually purchased a bus. We intend to do some, as we are doing now, some town hall meetings. So I guess I'll just speak to the powers that be for us to just ramp that up also.
Mr. Fagan. I think the question came from the caregivers of the demographic which you are serving. So that's why that question. The next question is for the OUR. For the OUR, what influence does the organization have in the digitization activities of the utility companies?
Thank you so much for that question. Now, we do not have direct influence with respect to the digitization initiatives that the service providers will undertake. However, we do review the service providers' business plans when they are submitted for their rate reviews, and those plans may include the initiatives towards digitization, which we review and will allocate resources to the service providers for them to accomplish these plans.
Okay. This question is, a part of it has not been typed in, so I'll read it the best way I can. I think it's how can I apply online for pension to be transferred to the bank, or do you have to come into the office? So, Mr. Fagan again. You may need to stand at the lectern.
Okay, all right, the form for the online to be transferred, for it to be transferred to your bank account is online. It's at www.mlss.gov.jm. You look for the social security link. You click on it, you will see the NIS link, and then you will see forms. You can click on forms, download the direct deposit application. Now, the tricky part is that the form needs to be certified and stamped. If you know where to send it, would not suggest you just send it arbitrarily. We just ask you to just drop it off. That's the easiest process, because we want to validate that it's actually the correct thing. So your name should also be on the account, and you'll need to produce your identification to ensure that it's you are the person that is actually doing that. So we'll also validate that to the bank that it is actually your account. But your name, you have to be either the bank holder of the account, or your name should appear on the account. If you know someone there, you can send in the email and they'll probably drop it off to you, but you won't. There's not a direct account that you can send it to. Okay?
Okay.
Let me hear.
Maybe you should stay right there, Mr.
Okay.
Fagan. Well, this one is a comment. It says, I do have some comments. We need more done for the senior citizens. Can I say what some of these are, especially banks? I'm reading the question, and if the person who posted that can hear me, you need to post your questions. The next question is, do you have to come in? I think you answered this partially. Do you have to come into the office to apply for having your pension sent online, and what are the requirements to have it done?
Yes, we suggest that you do that. Unless you have a direct number for you to speak with somebody directly, we suggest that you do that.
Okay.
Because we don't want to tell you just send it in there and then we create another problem for you where your application is in limbo. So we are trying to improve our services and our response time to you, the pensioner. So we just ask, yes, one-to-one it may be better.
And another question for you, Mr. Fagan. What if you submit the live certificate late? Does a senior get the pension retro, or is it a blank period?
Sorry, no, we do not withhold person's pension. What we do is that on receiving a life certificate, if it is late, you will not get it at the regular time, but you'll get it at the end of the month. So everything that is due to you, you will receive. We do not withhold or give you a blank period. We do not penalize. We just hold until you confirm that you're alive. So if you have not been paid for 6 months, and as soon as you bring in the life certificate, we'll pay you for the 6 months that you were not paid. That's it.
I think that was the last question. I don't see any more questions coming in, Madam Moderator.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Campbell. I think we need to have a session especially for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. But for the time being, if you have additional questions that you did not have an opportunity to raise here, you may send your questions to info@cac.gov.jm. And also, you may contact the CAC on its social media platform, that is Facebook, CAC Jamaica, Twitter, CAC Jamaica, and you may have access to additional videos and information on the CAC's YouTube page. Additionally, you may go on Google Play or the Apple equivalent. What's it? It's slipping my mind now. For the app, the CAC application, mobile application, where there is a feature to ask questions and the team will respond to those questions in very short order. The team is also very active on Twitter, and we recognize that persons are on Twitter. There's another question, Ms. Campbell?
No, there isn't a question, but I know that you are getting ready to make commendations, so I need to read these that have been coming in for you. The first one is from Charmaine Campbell. Excellent presentation, Shanique. Another one from Petro Pawabura saying, very informative webinar overall. Charmaine also said, needed and relevant information that was well organized and presented. Appropriate mix of panelists too. Well done again, CAC. And another, Karine Jackson, said, thanks, Shanique, JPS. And the final one is from, of course, one of the notables of the JPS, Winsome column. She said, thanks, CAC. This was a well-organized and timely webinar with a rich mix of panelists. Congrats on the work you're doing. And the final one says, great job, Shanique. So those are the commendations.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell, again. And I too would like to echo the sentiments of the persons online. We had over 80 participants online, and also those joining us via Facebook. And I'd like to also extend my thanks to the panelists. You all delivered a very well presented presentation, and I too learned a lot, especially the difference between digital currency and cryptocurrency that I couldn't explain better myself. So thanks again. Thanks to our minister who joined us. Thanks to Digitalization. We could have had him joining us from Savannah Lamar and delivering his address. I really enjoyed myself here and really got some useful information, and I'm sure I speak for the rest of the persons joining us. So thanks to the CAC and the team for putting on this well-organized seminar, and thanks to the BSJ for hosting us. We're coming to you live from the BSJ's multi-purpose complex, and we thank you again for joining us. Do send your questions and engage the CAC via its various digital platforms, and also our other presenters on the digital platforms that they too spoke to. Thanks, and have a good rest of day, and happy International World Consumer Rights Day 2022. Thank you.